Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cotswold Bees channel. Now today is actually a lovely January day, the sun's shining out there and it's actually just warm enough that some of the bees are flying. But the last thing I want to be doing in circumstances like this is opening up beehives. All I'm going to do is let heat out, that's going to do damage, and that's what we really don't want to do. So long as my bees have got enough to eat this time of year, then leave them alone, let them hunker down, keep themselves warm and build up, ready for the spring. Talking of things to eat, well, we're having a fireside chat, so I've got a nice cup of tea, and festively I've got some of the last of the Christmas cake from Carol. She produced this over Christmas. I've been steadily working my way through it, and I've got very little left, so I thought I'd share the last piece with you. So here we go with the subject we're often asked about on courses. Why should I spend a lot of money actually buying a nucleus of bees from a commercial person such as yourself, when I can get a swarm for little or nothing? So what we're going to do is have a look at the advantages and disadvantages of buying a nucleus over and above getting a swarm for possibly free or very little. We'll begin by talking about the advantages of actually starting with a swarm. And there is one advantage, and one advantage only really: they should be free. The absolute maximum that you should pay for a swarm of bees is to cover somebody's expenses. And if you caught that swarm yourself, maybe you put a hive out and actually before you were able to get your bees a swarm moved in, and that happens more often than you would think, then okay, keep those bees and move forward with them. In a way, what have you got to lose? Well, you have got some things to lose, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But if your bees have moved in for free, then okay, great, whoopee-doo, happy days, move on. But other than cost, there really is no advantage in starting with a swarm. If you think about it, first things first, the queen. In a swarm, you've no idea how old the queen is, and you don't know what state she's in. So with a nucleus of bees, you'll know exactly how old your queen is. Your queen should have been marked by the supplier with the correct year marking, and if you remember, actually white, yellow, red, green, blue. Will you raise good bees? And that colour indicates how old the queen is. With a good nucleus of bees, you're going to start with a very young queen. Young queens are always better for beginners to start with than older queens. They're hopefully going to live longer, hopefully they're going to be more productive. I always say hopefully because, you know, with bees nothing is 100% guaranteed, but they should be better in every way. And so starting with a new good queen from known stock. And that's another really important thing. If you start with a swarm, you really don't know what the temperament's going to be like until you get in there. And you really don't want bees that are going to be like this.
I've just arrived at the hive and all is not well. As you can see, they're already having a real go at me, and if we look down into the hive, you'll see they're coming up at me. They're really not happy at all. Now you can see they're all over the camera, they're all over me. They're really very, very unhappy bees. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to put the camera down because all is not well in the world here, and I'm going to make sure I can find the queen. So you can just see, if I turn the camera around, they are literally all over the camera, all over me, and making a hell of a racket.
What we want is a nucleus that's been bred for temperament first, so when you actually handle your bees, you can handle them like this with no gloves or just these medical examination gloves, and you're not having a problem. They're not coming up to sting you every time. As you can see, the bees are perfectly calm. They're not worried about me being here. I probably won't need any more smoke at all. The golden rule with bees is very simple. If you think you're being too gentle, just be a bit more gentle. You really can't be too gentle. So here comes the frame. I'm not inspecting the bees at this stage, but I'll just keep an eye on what's going on. And this is actually a frame, really glistening, you can see, and this is all full of nectar and honey. And so I'm going to pop this in the same order as I take it out of the box into the hive. If you're going to buy a nucleus of bees, buy a nucleus for someone who breeds for temperament first, and productivity. Yes, we want productivity, but productivity very much a second. And that way you'll get nice bees and your hobby's going to be fun. And let's face it, even from a commercial point of view, we want to have a bit of fun as we're going along. We don't want huge numbers of insects trying to sting us all the time. It's not a pleasant situation. Not only is it not a pleasant situation for us, it's not a pleasant situation for your neighbours. And again, especially if you're in a built-up area, you want bees that are of good temperament. Buying from a known source, you can get bees that are of a known temperament to start with. So that's fantastic. The other thing, with a swarm, all you get is bees. You get a lump of bees. And literally all you get is however many bees, 10, 15, maybe in a really big swarm, 20,000 bees and a queen. You don't get any brood and you don't get any stores. With a nucleus that's been properly prepared, you're going to have a balanced colony. It's like a mini colony, if you like. It'll have some stores, it'll have some honey, some pollen, it'll have some nectar that hasn't yet been converted into honey. You'll also have bees at all stages, brood, you'll have eggs, uncapped brood and capped brood. You'll have nurse bees, forager bees, all in that box that you bought to start with. Introducing it to the hive is very much easier. It might not be as much fun, but introducing a new nucleus of bees to the hive is just a question of opening up the box, taking out the frames and putting the frames into your hive. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the next frame. Nice and gentle. Gently lift it up. And all the time I'm working over the box or over the hive, so that if I do have to find the queen, and indeed here she is. So you can just see the queen there, she's just run through the other side. So let's just have a look. There's the queen. There she is with a green dot on her head. She's a 2019 queen, just running through there. So I'm over the box or over the hive. So if I were to drop her, she'd drop into the bottom of the box or the bottom of the hive. With a swarm, you've got to be a bit more careful. You can shake them into the hive, but most people will run them in like this. And as you can see, that's great fun watching them run in, but you need to know what you're doing. And also, there's no guarantee that a swarm won't abscond. There are ways of preventing it or limiting the chances, but there's nothing worse as a new beekeeper than getting your swarm home, putting it in the hive and coming back the next morning only to discover it's shoved off somewhere else. So again, a good advantage with a nucleus, that's never going to happen because bees will never actually desert brood. So once you've got the brood in there, you know your bees are going to stay in your hive. And that's another big advantage. So everything is pointing towards a nucleus from a professionally produced source so far. One of the other things is disease. Your bees in the nucleus should have been treated for varroa before you get them, and also they should be disease free. A nucleus of bees is much more likely to settle faster and get established and move forward. And you're much more likely to get some honey in your first year from a nucleus of bees than you are from a swarm. Now that's not to say if you start with a swarm you won't get any honey. It just depends on the weather, what forage is around, and you might do very well with a swarm. And I've known swarms do incredibly well, and some swarms will do better than some nuclei. And that's the way of the world. But the balance of probabilities is that if you buy a nucleus from a reputable source, you're going to hit the ground running with a flying start. As a beginner beekeeper, it's going to be just so much easier for you to look after your bees properly. And at the end of the day, all that matters is that you are looking after those bees properly. And whatever makes your life easier at the beginning has got to be a good thing. So have a think about buying a nucleus. If you possibly can, if you can afford it, go with a nucleus. There are two sorts. There's the overwintered nucleus, where the queen was reared the year before and the bees have gone through the winter. And generally speaking, they're available April, May time. The only trouble is, most reputable breeders, they will probably have had all their nukes sold out the year before, pre-ordered, but there's no harm in asking. If you can't get an overwintered nucleus, you maybe have to wait another month or so and get a spring or summer produced nucleus. So that will be a queen of the current year. And again, that will be very good, but you will be a little bit behind starting with that. And an overwintered nuke, if you can get one and start early in the season, the earlier in the season you can start, the better, is going to be the way to go forward. So there you are. The only advantage of actually starting with a swarm is cost. Everything else points towards starting with a properly produced nuke. So I hope that's given you something to think about as to whether you start with a swarm or a nucleus from a reputable source. And before I disappear, I must say from a reputable source, and that's really good. Go to your local beekeeping association, please join your local beekeeping association, talk to them. They will know who in your area produces good nukes of bees. Not all nukes of bees are born equal. Make sure you go for one that's bred for temperament first and possibly productivity second. Productivity is not the main thing, but temperament certainly will be. And if you're starting as a new beekeeper, you certainly don't want aggressive bees. It's unpleasant. Any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comments down below. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and please give it a thumbs up if you like it, and even better, subscribe to the channel because we've got lots more of these videos coming along. So once again, thank you for your time, thanks for listening. Enjoy your beekeeping. It's not too long now before the season starts and we can get out there, but there'll be a few more of these fireside chats before we do. So enjoy your bees, enjoy your beekeeping. Thanks very much, and I'm just going to get on with munching my way through the last of the Christmas cake, and it'll be a different cake next time as well as everything else. Enjoy your bees.